Chelsea need a number 9. You could literally go back and pick any one of probably the last 15 years or so, and I would have been saying that exact thing. Unfortunately, Chelsea, since the likes of Diego Costa and obviously Didier Drogba before, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, have never been able to find that man that we can consistently, for at least a couple of seasons, hang our hat on. Nicolas Anelka, I should have mentioned him in there. He's a good shout. But we can't find a man to hang our hat on in number 9 to score the goals for us on a regular basis. And at the minute, despite the sort of pre-season expectation and the good feeling we were having around Nicholas Jackson, for me, at this moment in time, he's just not cutting it. So, one man that does cut it, that can help me in finding the answer in Chelsea search to our number 9, is my good friend and channel fan favourite, Josh Aveste. Josh, how's it going, mate?
Good, mate. I honestly think, I'm not going to lie, I think I could do a better job than Nicholas Jackson up top right now. I've played up front. Yep. I've got a good CV in Sunday League football. I used to be, pretty good at putting the ball in the back of the net. I'm putting my name forward. So we can just finish the video here.
Yep.
Give me the contract. I'll do it for free. I won't even require any payment.
Joe Shields, we know you're a watcher of the channel. Make sure you just to sort of sell yourself a little bit more attributes wise. What who would you compare yourself to in a number 9 position?
Just think about the strength of Didier Drogba, the finishing ability of Diego Costa, the sort of the technical ability of Azola, and then the pace of like an Andre Schürrle. Do you remember him? I used to love Andre Schürrle. A lot of people used to say I was very similar to him.
So and the partying habits of Adrian Mutu.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So if you just merge all of those players, that's kind of what you're expecting.
You're a hybrid.
Yeah.
A thoroughbred.
Only second to Erling Haaland. I'd give him probably a better starting position than me. But other than that, I think I could do a job.
People, I will see you all in the net. No, I'm joking. Right, let's start off, right? I might jump in the gun to say that Chelsea need a number 9 because, let's be honest, in the short term, I can admit I've pretty much written off Nicholas Jackson as being the man that I think can deliver us 15 to 25 goals in a Premier League season. Have I jumped the gun on that?
I don't think you have, and I don't use the term crisis lightly, but I'm starting to think that the number 9 position for Chelsea is a bit of a crisis. I don't think we've had an out-and-out amazing number 9 since Costa. I think it's been that long. And so to say that we've gone through the amount of players that we've had since that period and we haven't solved that issue of just putting the ball in the back of the net. We had Kai Havertz last year as a false 9, as a striker playing for us. We just haven't solved that issue. Now, for me with Jackson, I do think that we are getting on his back a little bit too much, and I do think he will come good in the long run. The one that really worries me more than Jackson, because I think he could be a very able understudy and actually potentially a wing option as well. We've discussed that in the podcast before as well. The one that really worries me is Broja. He's had a really serious injury where he's been out for months, if not close to a year.
No, close to... it'd be about 10 months, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And do you remember, how he got that injury? The most stupid thing ever. We played a mid-season friendly against Villa, didn't we? I can't even remember where it was now. He goes down injured and ruled out. And obviously, I remember I was at that Wolves match. Remember when he cut inside onto his right-hand side and blasted one in from just outside the penalty area? He was looking really good around that time. And I think since Bro has come back, I want to be careful with how I word this because I don't want it to come across like I'm writing Brower off. Brower's brilliant. Really, really good. But since he's come back, we haven't seen the exact same or anywhere near the same level, even of intensity from him. Do you remember the way he used to run towards the defenders? I don't care if you're Van Dijk, I don't care if you're Saliba or anyone else. You shit yourself with that boy running towards you. But 15 stone of Albanian muscle running towards you at about 50 mile per hour. He was scary, wasn't he?
He was. And do you know what? Such a good lad as well. I've seen so many interviews of him. He seems like he's got his head screwed on. Seems like he's really down to earth. I think he's got all of the technical ability to be a top class goal scorer.
Agreed.
But if he can't get on the pitch, then there's no point. We might as well then offload him.
When we hear about what it is, when you hear swelling to someone that doesn't watch football or whatever, it might not sound that bad, does it? But
it does. It sounds really bad to me. To have a recurrence of the injury and have persistent swelling around that injury, the physios are going to be shitting themselves.
You know who always had swelling after matches?
Tell me.
Ledley King.
There you go. He's not going to be another one of those, is he? Surely not. That'd be such a shame on his career when he's looked so exciting. Like, for us, he's looked great. For Southampton, he looked really good as well. I don't want to write him off. And look, I'm a huge Broja fan. Broja, for me, is the number 9 for us, right? It is that simple. If he's fit and available, you got him versus Jackson, I'm picking Broja. If they're both 100% fit. But I worry. And you look at, we've had players like Kante that, playing 30% of games. You look at Reece, you look at Chilwell. Some of these players, when they get to a point, you do have to abandon them. You have to say, are they going to be fit enough and ready to go long term? So for me, I am now thinking it's crisis position.
So in the short term, we're ruling out Jackson for the short term, for this season we're talking about, from January onwards to maybe give us a push towards European football. We're ruling out Broja in the short term, and we don't need a conversation on it. Washington's not ready just yet.
No, Washington's a kid. The only one that we've got to talk about is Nkunku. Obviously, he can fill in that position, can't he? But again, he's coming off a very serious injury. And also, look, I don't want to be relying on Nkunku to be a false nine. Like, he's a good goal scorer, but I think he wants to be free to roam and to do whatever he wants. And I feel we still need a focal point. So
now we've been able to see a bit more of a case study on what Kai Havertz does, or apparently doesn't do. With him at Arsenal, I'm pretty set there that, okay, he wasn't going to be anything too valuable to us anyway, barring that Champions League goal, obviously. But one of the things at the time, when he was getting played at number 9, I was sort of thinking, mate, like, this boy ain't a 9, and we're putting him there because we need someone there, but actually it's hindering him and probably knocking his confidence a little bit, because he might be better somewhere else on the pitch, and we're not exploring the idea of having him there. And for that reason, that's why I'm reluctant to, again, hang our hopes on Nkunku. Now, do I think Nkunku will come straight in and take the spot off of whoever's playing there? Yeah, but long-term solution-wise, I don't know if it's the best. So are we in agreement that we both think we need to go into the market for a number 9?
yes. And the question is whether we do that in January or in the summer. And I quite frankly think we need to do it in January. Do you agree?
I think we need to do it in January, because I think, like, if we do it in January, it's not too late at all to get a push into those Europa League spots. And you can banter it all you like, but I really don't give a fuck, mate. I would love Europa League football. I loved our Europa League runs. We've got 100% record in the competition of recent, haven't we? Both times we've been in it, we won it. And I was very, very happy, or I would be very happy, I should say, to see these young players developing a bit of experience and gaining a bit of know-how playing in Europa League football. So I would be more than up for it. And I think if we can get a goal scorer in the short term, we could fire ourselves into a position to be able to pick up Europa League football. Now, let's start off, because we will give some honourable mentions and we will talk about other players here and there. But the two names that are heavily floated about at the minute is Ivan Toney and Victor Osimhen. We are being led to believe that Ivan Toney's price point is now going to be around the 100 million mark.
Ridiculous. Absolutely insane. And you know what? I think you and I, we really disagree on this, because I don't know if Toney is worth that money, and I don't know whether he's going to be Champions League title winning quality. I think Ivan Toney is a brilliant player. I just don't know if he's going to be elite. And when we're signing the next striker for Chelsea, we need to be thinking about a world-class striker that any team in Europe would want to be signing for their team. And I think that Ivan Toney has got that ability to be in the box and score goals. But I don't know whether Real Madrid are going to want him in 3 years' time, or Man City are going to be in for him, So I think you've got to, when you're looking at the targets, you've got to think who's going to be that level.
So the man that I know that you would probably be keen on bringing in, out of the ones we spoke about so far, would be Victor Osimhen. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, he's got a younger age profile. He seems like he's a little bit more athletic. He seems like he can boss defenders slightly more. The question that I have around him is whether he can do it in the Premier League. And we know that Ivan Toney can do it in the Premier League. But this guy just looks like he's got some X factor about him. He's unhappy in Napoli. There is a chance we could pry him away from there. A club that is so difficult to negotiate with, and we know that because we've had to deal with them in the past. So I think there's like a golden moment for us now to get like one of the best strikers in Europe. And so why wouldn't you want to explore that? And also, when you're then talking about the prices that we're going to have to look at, you got Toney at 100 million, you got Osimhen at what, 150, 140? We can try and negotiate that down if he wants to be out of the club. So the price difference, even if it's 80 for Toney, the price difference isn't that much. Now, you're very bullish on Toney, and I want to know why you are so bullish on him.
So let's have a little look, right, at the statistics so far. Ivan Toney, 32 goals in 66 Premier League games. Victor Osimhen, I think, is 103 goals in 201 games across his career so far. And obviously, most of that coming, pretty much all of that coming, barring one season with Lille, in Serie A. Now, we've looked at players that have come over from Serie A, and none of them that I can remember have translated that well in terms of goal scoring into the Premier League. Obviously, notably of ourselves, we've had Shevchenko come over, Adrian Mutu come over. Crespo's record actually wasn't that bad, but I'll tell you who was, Higuain when he come over. And then we look even at other clubs, you know. You had Scamacca come over, and he wasn't able to translate the form he had done in Serie A. Same with Stefan Jovetic for Manchester City in times gone by. You can probably think of other examples of players that came over and haven't been able to put the form that they showed in Serie A, probably most notably for us, Lukaku as well. So because of that, there's always that question mark there. And when I look at Ivan Toney's record, right, 32 goals, 66 games, right, I am saying now, if he played 66 games in Serie A, he scored a lot more than 32 goals. He's closing in on 50 goals in 66 games, because I am not having anyone tell me it is not easier to score goals in Serie A than it is in the Premier League. The game pace is slower, the intensity is a lot quicker in the Premier League, it's more physical. I just think it's definitely a lot harder to score goals in the Premier League. So I think that Ivan Toney's record, when compared to Victor Osimhen's, maybe doesn't flatter him as much as it should.
So Toney's 27. He's coming off an 8-month ban where he hasn't been able to play football at all. Signing him in January, you have to admit, is a massive risk. Do you not?
It is a risk. It is a risk. But I also think that it would be a risk to sign Osimhen then, because of the fact, as I say, that he doesn't have that Premier League experience, and we don't know if he'll be able to translate his form into the Premier League. And that's the main thing that I really do look at there. And maybe part of me is guilty for not knowing as much about Osimhen as I do about Ivan Toney, not being able to say that I've sat in the stands and watched Osimhen play, whereas I have Ivan Toney quite a few times, and not being able to say I've sat at home and watched Osimhen play all that much. But there is something I see in Ivan Toney, and stylistically, you know this from since we first ever met, Josh. I've always been saying, before he was rumoured, maybe even before he got the ban, that Ivan Toney is a player that I think could suit Chelsea's style. And with Victor Osimhen, I just don't have that same sort of certainty just yet.
Do you think we can win the league with Ivan Toney as the number 9 for Chelsea?
I don't think we can win the league at the minute with anyone as the number 9. And I think by the time we do get there, it will be a case of hopefully Pep moving on, maybe Klopp moving on as well. And I do think by that age, you know, you're looking at Ivan Toney that's sort of 30 plus. So maybe potentially, yeah, I suppose to answer your question, no, I don't.
This is the thing, like, I'm going back now, and I'm going. Let's go back to 2005, right? Ivan Toney is playing in the Premier League, similar time period. Do you think Roman Abramovich is going and buying Ivan Toney?
No,
I don't think he is, and that's why for me, the number 9 signing that we go for now has to be a Galactico, or the potential to become a Galactico.
Roman never wanted Andy Johnson from Palace.
There you go. And Andy Johnson would have done a job for Chelsea. He scored goals in the Premier League. This is the debate. And look, you're never going to solve this debate until you see Ivan Toney in a Chelsea shirt. And also, mate, let's be honest, we've got a horrendous record of ruining English number 9s. So we could very well do that again. But
do you know the main thing I would say here? Sorry to cut you off there, but the main thing I'd say here is when we had this discussion, right? We had it last on Sunday on the kickoff, right? Brentford hadn't come out and put £100 million price tag on him at that point. So then, when I look at it, I think, okay, right. If he goes to Arsenal, they're not paying 100 million, yeah? If he goes to Liverpool, they're not paying 100 million. No one's paying 100 million for Ivan Toney, but potentially Chelsea, because everyone knows you can put our pants down a little bit on this, okay? So I don't think that any other team are paying 100 million for Ivan Toney, and I think Chelsea would be the only ones. Would I want to pay 100 million? No. I initially thought that you could get Ivan Toney for 50, and knowing my club Chelsea, if I'm being honest, that means we'd probably pay 66, 67 million for him or something. But even with anything under the 70 million mark, desperate times do cause for desperate measures sometimes, and I sort of thought, oh, all right, maybe I'd go for it. If it's anything over the 70 million mark, then I wouldn't want to go for it. But then it's like, mate, we're hearing 160 odd million for Osimhen. So it's not like there's really a middle ground. We either spend big on Ivan Toney and accept the fact that we're probably not going to get sell-on value with him, or we spend big on Osimhen and then have such a risk there that if it doesn't work, oh my God, they're the sort of transfers that not only get managers in trouble, get football clubs in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a risk. There are risks on both sides. I think we've got to weigh up the potential downsides. Like wasting 160 million on a player that like has had some injuries with Osimhen, right? He's unproven in the Premier League. Italy is far easier to score goals. I completely take that point, right? So you've got to go, there are some intangibles there that make him a scary option. But with Toney, like not playing for 8 months really, really worries me. Because like there's a rust there beyond just like an injury rust of like just not being involved in football. It's something that does really, really scare me.
He is training with him now. And as I was saying to you before, I know it doesn't hold much significance, but he has been playing for the B team, innit? The Brentford B team.
Yeah.
Him and old Romeo Beckham tearing it up.
I don't know how that's allowed because he's not allowed in any football activity. So I don't understand how they're doing that, by the way.
No, I think it was the first 4 months of the ban. He wasn't allowed in any sort of football activity. But I got told he was training across the road at the rugby ground, doing all his fitness stuff and whatnot. So
it's a weird one, isn't it? It's funny because I think there are other options that we got to look at, but those two are the key ones that we're looking at. I think let's just hang our hats on one or the other now, right? Because we've both made a compelling argument. I think for me,
you got to give me context of price tag.
So all right, let's do that then, right? I think a realistic price tag for Toney is around 70 million. Maybe even slightly more than that. Let's call it 72.
I don't think you're getting him for 70. I think you've got to say 80 for
Well, let's say 80 then, because they've quoted 100, but that's just ridiculous. His market value is less than 60. So let's call it 80, right? I think Osimhen, yes, he's at Napoli. They're incredibly difficult to deal with. But he actively wants to leave. And also, like, the amount of shit that he was dealing with at the start of the season. We did a whole video about it in the kickoff. I mean, the abuse that he was getting from their own fans is just a joke. Yeah. It's a joke. So, like, I do think he won't be as expensive as we think. But let's call it 140. Right? That's realistic. Now make your decision.
What are the fees again?
80 for Toney and 140 for Osimhen.
You've charmed me.
No, you've changed your mind. So why have you changed your mind? Just the price tag alone?
Well, if it's 140 for Osimhen, I think wage-wise it might be similar. And then I'm thinking, okay, in 5 years' time, Ivan Toney's 32?
Yeah.
5 years' time, Osimhen's 29? Yeah.
I think there's a very high chance that we sell Osimhen before the end of that contract as well. You offload him when he's 28. I think there's a good
people never realise what a massive emphasis sell-on value like gives to these sort of things, do they? They really don't understand that.
And Ivan Toney is going to be worth nothing when he's sort of 32, 31. Even then, like, his career will very much be on the wane. That's why you got to look at, Watkins. Watkins is higher potentially in the pecking order now than Toney will be when he comes back.
Right, fuck it. Let's go Osimhen at that price. But we will look into some of the other honourable mentions or maybe realistic options that we could go for. Evan Ferguson, I think they were about 280 million for him. He scored 11 goals in 30 odd Premier League appearances. Can we rule him out?
Yeah, love him. I would love to have him at Chelsea. One, I don't want to deal with Brighton ever again. And two, I don't want to pay 285 million, as you just said. So I don't think he's an option.
One that we have apparently been offered is having Tammy back. Me and you have disagreed over this in sort of times gone by very recently. I just don't think that Tammy is a massive upgrade from what we've got already in Brower and Jackson. What I do believe is Tammy is obviously a massively more natural finisher than either of them. But I'll tell you what, Tammy's goal record in Serie A isn't that good, is it?
It's not that good. But I tell you what, if it's a swap deal between him and Lukaku in the end of next summer, Broja is still injured and Jackson's still at the club and we haven't necessarily signed a number 9, would you not take him?
Well, let's speak about that swap deal because Romelu Lukaku has got 8 goals in 11 games for Roma. He's looking quite good for him. He's got his shooting boots on. He's doing it, let's not forget, for a manager that moved him on at Man United pretty much. So he's actually doing it for a manager that he's had disagreements with. So he's starting to show a layer to his game that shows that he can have a falling out and come back from it. And that's saying that, could impress you a little bit. Is the swap deal the most sensible thing, or would it be more sensible to take Romelu Lukaku back? Because I always see, and I know you read the comments sometimes as well, every now and again, there'll always be one that shouts for it. It's usually about 1 a.m, and that person's had about 10 or 12 beers, but there is always one that shouts for the bring back Roma.
Do you not think that we write off Tammy so quickly as Chelsea fans? I was looking at the stats, right, and Italy is one thing. Let's go back to the Premier League because we know what Tammy can do in the Premier League. He got 15 goals in 34 games in the Premier League when he wasn't even really starting all of those games for Chelsea in the Frank Lampard era. Is that not a good record? Would we not take that right now?
It is a very, very good record. I'm very impressed by it. But, as I say, I think it's very much easier to score goals over in Italy, and he hasn't really been doing that. Not to the same extent. He looked good when he was first over there, but I don't know. Do you know... I feel really bad saying this because I don't want to label Tammy with this, but like when we look at Man United and they got Johnny Evans playing at the back. Do you know where I'm going with that?
I do know. It's harsh, though, because Johnny Evans is 38. Tammy Abraham's still in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
He has had a bad injury. The injuries are the ones that scare me the most.
I'm not saying it's a backward step. But let's say, for example, because I'm going to put it out there now, I don't want Lukaku. You don't want Lukaku, do you?
No, I don't want Lukaku.
I'm not saying it's a backward step. But what I'm saying is, if I get Ivan Toney, I think that's a forward step, and I'm quite confident in it. If you get Victor Osimhen, there's more uncertainty, but that might be a forwards jump, not even a step, that could go really, really well. Other players you might touch on could be a forward step. However, I just don't think it's any step. I just think you're standing still. So I'm not saying it's a backward step, but I just think with Tammy, you're just standing still. With Lukaku, he's only going to come in and piss everyone off again anyway. I'll tell you what, though, some of the balls that I see drilled along across the floor in the box, Lukaku's finishing a lot of them. So it is hard, It's hard. I've used the comparison before. It's having the ex you'll never go back to, but she's a good shag. But you're just never going to go back to her. Do you know what I mean? And that's where it is with Lukaku. So let's go last one. Or last one for me, Ollie Watkins.
Too old.
Is he old? How old's Ollie Watkins?
He's 27. Yeah, I
coffin dodger.
I couldn't believe that though.
Yeah.
I thought he was like 22. I thought he was like a young kid coming up. He's been around for a while. I just don't know.
Brentford producing good strikers, man. I don't know if they produced him, but I mean, like
they bought him.
Oh, did they buy him? Yeah, they had him. They had Toney. Who's the other one that was at Brentford?
Morpay, great player.
Great. Oh yeah, Neil Morpay. Unreal.
Yeah. So yeah, I know why you said him. He's an English striker. He's tearing it up for Villa. I just don't know whether he's got it at the very top level, which might be harsh. But again, I think him and Toney are arguable about how good they are, and I think a lot of people would argue that Toney was better than him.
Any rogue shouts?
So I've got 2 other options for us to consider. Benjamin Sesko, he's played within the Leipzig system, the Red Bull system. He's played at Salzburg as well. He looks immense. He's 20 years old. He's kind of like the Haaland sort of type of player, except he's silky with his feet.
Nice.
He's 195 centimeters tall, so he's an absolute freaking giant. He's been bossing it over in.
That's what I do
Austria.
when I do my height. I tell people in centimeters. It just sounds taller, doesn't it?
Yeah. How many centimeters is it, Joe?
It's about 6.
And I think he's just got such a good conversion rate as well. I think his conversion rate was like 25%. So 1 in 4 chances he gets, he bags it in, which is very, very good. I really like him. The one that I think is a bit of a rogue one is Jonathan David. He plays in the French league.
Yeah.
23 years old. He's
Canadian. Yeah,
he's Canadian. I was looking at different stats and looking at goals, and to be fair, he isn't sort of like, he doesn't really tear it up in the French league. He scores a lot of goals, but in the French league, you'd want someone absolutely going crazy. But he's got a 27% conversion rate. Do you know what, mate? That's only second to Erling Haaland.
Yeah, so that is crazy.
But he's doing it in the French league. So I think he's been around quite a lot, and also he's kind of like this winger / forward.
Tell you who else was doing it in the French league?
Tell me.
Didier Drogba.
Eden Hazard.
Yeah.
We've had a few.
Ooh,
yeah.
Let's have him.
Yeah.
How much do they want for him?
Oh, we'll take him for 60. You know, a nice round 60.
I give you 90.
Yeah, we do good business. But I think there are a good load of young players. I just think we're going to end up going for like the sort of Galactico name. That's why I think Osimhen is probably the most likely.
Well, can I just, for what it's worth, if we're going to pay Galactico money, don't think I'm writing this player off. Don't think I'm saying anything, talking him down. If we're playing Galactico money, go for a Galactico player. I don't want to see us pay 100 million on the gamble that Evan Ferguson might end up being the man. Do you know what I mean?
So you're talking about Olivier Giroud then, surely?
Olivier Giroud. Unreal.
Mate, I'm not going to lie, I would take him back.
Right.
I would.
Do you want my controversial take?
Go on.
You've offered me Tammy.
Yeah.
I'm saying I'd go Giroud over Tammy right now.
I would go Giroud over Tammy as well.
What would you lot do? We want to know your thoughts. Giroud over Tammy? Obviously, let us know. The main talking points here are obviously Ivan Toney against Victor Osimhen. Who would you rather see Chelsea go and splash the cash on in January? Or do you not think we need one? Do you think we're maybe overhyping this situation that we're in? You take a lot to convince me and to change my mind on it, but you have convinced me before, as does Josh nearly every single time he's here. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. It is linked in the description. If you're not already, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell so that you get a notification every time one of my videos goes live. See you in the next one.